Week 11 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few pitchers I will look to drop off my roster this week. The first guy is Johnny Cueto of the San Francisco Giants. It's been an up and down season here in 2021 for Johnny Cueto, but right now he's just not producing and getting the job done. So on the season, 54 innings, 4-3 record, 62 hits, 24 earned runs, 6 homers, 11 walks, 42 Ks, a 4 ERA, a 1.35 WHIP, and only 2 quality starts on the season here for Cueto. In the last couple weeks, 9 2/3, 0-2 record, 15 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 homers, 5 walks, 6 Ks, 6.52 ERA, and a 2.07 WHIP with no quality starts. So Cueto, he's just going out there. He's not going deep into games right now. And teams, they're hitting him hard, and he's walking a decent amount of batters as well in a short period of time of ball games. So the last few outings here for Cueto, May 31st versus the Angels, 7 innings, got the win, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 5 Ks, a 1.29 ERA, an 0.71 WHIP, and a quality start. June 6th versus the Cubs, 4 1/3, got the loss, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 homers, 2 walks, 4 Ks, a 6.23 ERA, and a 1.85 WHIP. And then his latest outing, June 13th, at the Nationals, 5 1/3, got the loss, 9 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 homers, giving up 3 walks, 2 Ks, a 6.75 ERA, and a 2.25 WHIP. So right now, he's not getting outs. He's not going deep into ball games. And he's been dropped already in 5% of fantasy leagues this week. And he's a guy I just can't count on. And he's a guy to drop this week. The next pitcher is Martin Perez of the Boston Red Sox. So Perez, he had a decent stretch of games earlier on in the season, but the last 2 or 3 outings have been a total nightmare for Perez and fantasy owners who still have him on their roster. And on the season for Perez, 61 1/3, 4-4 record, 66 hits, 31 earned runs, 8 homers, 22 walks, a 54 strikeouts, a 4.52 ERA, and a 1.43 WHIP with 3 quality starts in the last couple weeks here. 11 innings of work, 1-2 record, 18 hits, 11 earned runs, 4 homers, 5 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 9 ERA, and a 2.09 WHIP with a quality start. So right here, Perez, he's not going deep into games, and teams are hitting him hard in the last 3-4 outings right now. Here is Perez, and obviously he plays in a tough division in that American League East with the Yankees, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Blue Jays, and even the Baltimore Orioles to an extent could hit the baseball pretty well. So Perez, he was off to a great start, like I mentioned, the latter part of the year, but right now the last 2 or 3 weeks it's been a total train wreck, and a guy who's been dropped in 10% of leagues so far in the last weeks of the last 3 outings for Perez. June 3rd at Houston, 7 2/3, got the win, 6 hits, no runs, a walk, 4 Ks, and 0.91 WHIP and a quality start. June 8th for Perez here versus the Houston Astros, 2 innings, got the loss, 6 hits, 6 earned runs, a homer, 3 walks, 2 Ks, a 27 ERA, 4.5 WHIP. And then his latest outing, June 13th versus the Toronto Blue Jays, 1 1/3, got the loss, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 homers, a walk, 33.75 ERA, and a 5.25 WHIP. So right now, he's a player I can't trust in fantasy leagues, especially after those last 2 outings, where he could easily lost you a week with that ERA and WHIP in head-to-head type of leagues, and even points leagues with a lot of negative points under his belt. So right now, I would steer away here for Perez, even though his next outing looks good on paper at the Kansas City Royals, June 19th. The next pitcher is his teammate of the Red Sox, Nick Pavetta. So Nick Pavetta, he was off to a great undefeated start earlier in the season here for this Boston Red Sox team. But right now, he's just not getting the job done, and he's not going deep into games or winning ball games as well. Here's Pavetta. On the season, though, still solid numbers. 69 1/3, 6-2 record for Pavetta, 33 earned runs, 58 hits, 9 home runs, 33 walks, 80 strikeouts, a 4.28 ERA, and a 1.31 WHIP with 4 quality starts. But the last couple weeks here for Pavetta, 15 2/3, 0-2 record, 16 hits, 10 earned runs, 5 homers, 7 walks, 21 strikeouts, a 5.74 ERA, and a 1.47 WHIP with a quality start in the time. So right here, I said early in the season, Pavetta was a perfect sell-high candidate because I just couldn't see him keeping those numbers up and keeping the strikeouts and all those other great stats up here for the Red Sox team, especially where he don't really have a good track record throughout his career. And just another factor, that AL East, like I mentioned here for Martin Perez, so the last few outings here for Pavetta. June 7th versus Miami, 4 2/3, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, a homer, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 3.86 ERA, 2.14 WHIP. And then June 12th here versus Toronto, 5 innings, got the loss, 6 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 homers, 2 walks, 6 Ks, a 10.80 ERA, and a 1.60 WHIP. So right here, Nick Pavetta, like I said, he's not going deep into games. Teams are hitting him pretty solid and pretty hard. And his next outing is June 18th at the Kansas City Royals. Another good matchup on paper, but he's just another pitcher I can't trust here. And fantasy owners have already dropped him in 7% of fantasy leagues. And this week, I think he's a no-brainer drop. The next pitcher is John Gantt of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Gantt, he was off to a surprising good start the first few weeks of the season. But right now, the struggles definitely have continued for Gantt. On the season, 56 1/3, 4-4 record, 51 hits, 21 earned runs, 4 homers, 42 walks, 42 strikeouts. A horrible ratio for Gantt here with the same amount of walks and strikeouts this season. But he's still got a 3.36 ERA and a 1.65 WHIP with 2 quality starts. But the last couple weeks here, 11 2/3, 0-1 record, 12 hits, 12 earned runs, 3 homers, 11 walks, 7 Ks, 9.26 ERA, and a 1.97 WHIP with a quality start. So right here, the walks, they finally caught up to Gantt. And right now, he's walking the ballpark. He can't get outs for his ball club. And he's definitely not a fantasy factor with those high walks, those high WHIP, and the high ERA. And fantasy owners, they've dropped him in 8% of fantasy leagues the last couple weeks here. So the last few outings for Gantt, June 6th versus Cincinnati, 4 innings, no decision, 7 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 homers, 3 walks, 2 Ks, a 15.75 ERA, and a 2.50 WHIP. And then June 12th at the Chicago Cubs, 1 2/3, got the loss in that one, 1 hit, 5 earned runs, a homer, 5 walks, a strikeout, a 27 ERA, and a 3.60 WHIP. So right here, he's just not cutting it. He's hurting fantasy owners in a lot of categories. And right now, Gantt's not worth the headache. And his next outing is June 17th in Atlanta, which is another tough matchup here for him versus a tough hitting Atlanta club, even though so far this season, they were off to a slow start. And the 5th and final pitcher I would look to drop this week, Kris Bubic of the Kansas City Royals. So Bubic, he had a decent amount of hype coming into fantasy leagues this season here. But he's just another guy that struggles with walking people and not getting out. So far in the season for Bubic, 42 2/3, 1 2 record, 40 hits, 19 earned runs, 9 homers, 21 walks, 37 strikeouts, a 4.01 ERA, and a 1.43 WHIP with 2 quality starts in the last couple weeks for Bubic. 13 innings, 0-2 record, 21 hits, 14 earned runs, 8 homers, 7 walks, 15 Ks, a 9.69 ERA, and a 2.15 WHIP here for Bubic. So right now, he's in a division, to be honest though, where I mentioned it a lot, this AL Central ain't a great hitting division, besides the Chicago White Sox for the most part, and the Twins here and there, in my opinion. But the last few outings for Bubic, he's just not going deep into games, and he's being a negative for fantasy owners. June 3rd versus Minnesota, 4 1/3, 8 hits, no decision in that game, 3 earned runs, a homer, 2 walks, 6 Ks, a 6.23 ERA, and a 2.31 WHIP. Then June 8th at the Angels, 4 innings, got the loss, 6 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 homers, 2 walks, 4 Ks, a 13.5 ERA, and a 2 WHIP. And then June 13th at Oakland, 4 2/3, got the loss, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 homers, 3 walks, 5 Ks, a 9.64 ERA, and a 2.14 WHIP. So right now, Bubic, he's not getting outs. He's not contributing for fantasy owners in the Royals. And in my opinion, he's just an easy drop this week. Already been dropped in 6% of fantasy leagues. And his next outing is June 19th at Boston. But it's not going to be good for him, I think, in that ball game. So that's a few pitches I look to drop here in Week 11 of the fantasy baseball season.